and we're ready to go.
Well, good morning and welcome to the May 14th, 2021 California Board of Accountancy meeting. My name is Nancy Corrigan. I'm president of the California Board of Accountancy, or CBA. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Ms. Reed, our board relations analyst, to take roll call and establish a quorum. When Ms. Reed calls your name, please unmute your microphone and state your name and that you are present. Please remember to mute your microphone once you have stated your name. At the end of the roll call, Ms. Reed, please notify us as to whether we have a quorum. Thank you.
George Familet.
Present.
Carrie Ann Farrell-Hines.
Carrie Ann Farrell-Hines is present.
Dan Jacobson.
Here.
Sochi Leon.
Sorry, Xochitl Leon is here.
Luz Molina Lopez.
Luz Molina Lopez, present.
Dee Dee Owens.
Dee Dee Owens, present.
Ariel Pay.
Ariel Pay, present.
Katrina Salazar.
Trina Salazar, present.
Michael Savoy.
Savoy, present.
Mark Silverman.
Mark Silverman, present.
Yin Tu. Yin Tu. Nancy Corrigan.
Nancy Corrigan, present.
And Yin Tu. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please be advised that the meeting is being conducted consistent with provisions of Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N-2920. We are also conducting this meeting under the Department of Consumer Affairs COVID-19 Prevention Plan designed to safeguard employees from COVID-19, control exposures, and reduce the spread of the virus within the workplace. Based on this plan and the guidance regarding masks, you will note that those of us at the CBA office will be wearing a mask during our meeting, including during each presentation. Please be sure to let us know if you are having difficulty hearing us. I would like to thank CBA staff and the solid team for their assistance in facilitating this virtual meeting. The CBA's mission is to protect consumers by ensuring only qualified licensees practice public accountancy in accordance with established professional standards. This mission is derived from the statutory requirement that protection of the public shall be the highest priority of the California Board of Accountancy in exercising its licensing, regulatory, and disciplinary functions. Whenever the protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. Members of the public interested in participating in the meeting must join the WebEx meeting. Information and instructions are posted on our website. All lines are currently on mute. As I facilitate this meeting to allow for proceeding in an orderly manner, lines will remain on mute until I direct staff to open them for public comments. I will announce when we are accepting public comments on the various issues, and staff will open the lines as appropriate. 5 minutes will be allotted to each individual providing comments. I would also like to remind board members and others speaking during the meeting to please use the raise hand feature if you wish to make a motion, ask a question, or make a comment, and I will do my best to call on you. This approach is necessary to facilitate the meeting and ensure the board has the opportunity to complete its necessary business, and I appreciate everyone's understanding of this. At this time, we will move to agenda item 3, which is a public comment for items not on the May meeting agenda. The moderator will provide general instructions and then open it up for public comment. Moderator, please proceed.
Thank you. This is the moderator. Members of the public, if you would like to participate in public comment, we will be using the Q&A feature within WebEx. When we open the Q&A feature at the request of the board, click on the Q&A icon located at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen and type, "I would like to make a comment" in the Ask field, typically also located at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen, and send it to all panelists. The instructions are currently on the screen and will be on the screen each time public comment is requested. So at this time, if you would like to participate, please submit your request. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. I am moving on now to agenda item 4, report of the president. And agenda item 4A is the Department of Consumer Affairs training regarding substantially related convictions and acts to the practice of public accountancy. CBA members received a memorandum from the CBA's legal counsel, Helen Joffrey, on May 11th, 2021 for review and discussion as part of the training. The memorandum has not been released to others as it is confidential based on attorney-client privilege. To enable the DCA's legal memorandum to be available to the public and accompany the memorandum prepared by CBA member Jacobson, the CBA must pass a motion to waive confidentiality. At this time, I will entertain a motion to waive confidentiality on the memorandum prepared by DCA Legal Counsel dated May 11, 2021, entitled Substantially Related Crimes. Members, may I have a motion? Mr. Savoy.
I move to, I move that the memo from Helen Joffrey dated May 11, 2021, originally labeled as attorney-client privilege, be waived.
Thank you. And do I have a second? Mr.
I
Jacobson.
second.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Members, is there any further discussion of this item? Seeing that there is none, moderator, please ask for any public comment.
This is the moderator. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the Q&A icon at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote and provide us with results?
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez, Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay, Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
Mark Silverman,
Yes.
Yen Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. So the motion has passed and the DCA legal memorandum is now a public document. Although we are working to get both documents posted to the website, if any stakeholders or observers would like a copy before they are posted, please send an email to outreach@cba.ca.gov. So I want to introduce then our guests, our presenters, Ms. Helen Joffrey, Attorney 3, the California Board of Accountancy's assigned legal counsel from the Department of Consumer Affairs, who will be conducting the training, along with Mr. Ryan Marcroft, Deputy Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs Legal Division. Now, we're familiar with Ms. Joffrey as she's assigned to us as legal counsel. However, many of you may not be familiar with Mr. Marcroft. His bio is presented in your materials. So at this time, I'm turning over the meeting to Ms. Joffrey, and I want to comment that at the end of her presentation, I will be taking questions and comments from the members. I know I have a few questions. And I will be calling upon you using the raise hand function, and then Ms. Joffrey will respond appropriately. After that, we will take comments from the public and then proceed with the rest of our busy agenda. Ms. Joffrey, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, President Corrigan. Good morning, board members. This agenda is an opportunity for the members to discuss the general concept of substantially related crimes. This opportunity and the legal memo provided by the Board Counsel is intended to be a brief overview and as a supplement to prior training, which was publicly provided by the members of the Legal Division of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Attorney General's Office, as well as the discussions that took place to amend California Code of Regulations, Title 16, Section 99. This regulation set forth the board's definition of substantially related crimes. This is not intended to be an in-depth review of the law on substantial relationship. The prior training documents are included in today's meeting materials. They provide numerous references to crimes that have been previously found to be substantially related to various professions. To initiate this conversation, I will present the general concepts of the legal memo provided by Board Counsel for the benefit of the public and this discussion. As a friendly reminder, specific matters that were previously discussed in closed session should not be discussed here in open session. Business and Professions Code 490 and 5100 provide that a crime must be substantially related to the profession. This means that a nexus or a connection must exist between the crime and the licensee's fitness or capacity to practice accountancy, or to the qualifications, functions, or duties of the profession. When faced with a specific set of circumstances, the members analyze if the crime and facts provide insight on the licensee's fitness or competency to practice accountancy. If insight on the licensee's practice is present, the members determine if the public is still provided competent and professional accountancy services, or if the public and/or licensee would benefit from preventative, protective, and remedial action in the form of discipline. While individual members may disagree about whether particular criminal misconduct is substantially related, and certainly robust discussion on the topic is appropriate, the California Board of Accountancy ultimately decides the matter as a single board. Law in the form of statute, regulation, and case law guide the board's decision-making. As each matter is considered individually, the specific facts and applicable laws must guide the determination of a substantial relationship existence. There's no list of crimes that will always or never apply, although in some cases, the connection to a licensee's fitness to practice will be fairly clear. Also, since the courts have previously considered various crimes in the context of other professions, the analyses that courts have provided from prior cases can be useful in evaluating whether a particular crime is substantially related to the accountancy profession. The board is the final decision maker in a multi-step disciplinary process. The board reviews the substantial relationship analyses from enforcement staff and the Deputy Attorney General, and an administrative law judge if the case went to hearing. The board may not ultimately agree with the prior conclusions, or the board may determine that a substantial relationship was not properly explained or supported. But the documents reviewed by the board contain analyses by other qualified persons applying the same laws and facts to the individual matter at issue. While the law does not define the phrase substantially related with any specificity, it does provide helpful guidance to the board in evaluating each particular case. Each case must be evaluated on its own merits. For this reason, there are not simple rules for what conduct is or is not substantially related. The main focus of any substantial relationship analysis is whether there is an expressed nexus or connection between the crime and the practice of accountancy. In closing, this information should be considered in the broader context of the training and legal advice board receives from its counsel. I am available for any questions you may have of me.
Thank you, Ms. Joffrey. Members, questions for Ms. Joffrey? Mr. Jacobson? Mr. Jacobson?
Sorry. Helen, isn't it true that healthcare professionals have been found by the courts to, the courts have said there is no profession in a disciplinary case, there is no profession where the patient passes so completely within the power and control of the operator as does the medical patient. The unlearned patient has an abject dependence upon and trust in his physician. In Fuller versus Board of Medical Examiners, Cobbs versus Grant, and Board of Medical Quality Assurance versus Superior Court. Does that sound familiar? I don't mean that you have to have an encyclopedia knowledge of all cases, but does that sound familiar?
Yes, I did want to point out first, you started the question very much like a lawyer with "isn't it true?" I did want to make it clear to the public and to the board, of course, that I do not have an opposing counsel type relationship with the board, and instead I am counsel for the board, and each board member as a member of the board is my client. And so I want to avoid any arguments to any extent possible. But if I understand your question, does the medical profession, have courts stated that the medical profession indicates that there is no greater intimate relationship due to the fact that they pass so completely underneath that medical profession's power? And that is true. Courts have stated that. I anticipate your next question will relate this to the practice of accountancy.
Close, lawyers.
Okay.
Isn't it true that, by the way, I agree with you that there's, I thank you for not having an advocacy relationship and understanding that I am not and my understanding that I am not the board's attorney, you are, and I am a member of the board appointed by the speaker. Isn't it true that the Business and Professions Code provides for a specific statute that says that lawyers are different from other professions in that 24/7, all the time, we have to behave with appropriate moral turpitude. If we commit, no matter what we're doing, whether it's related to lawyering or not, if we do something that involves inappropriate moral turpitude, we can be disciplined as well.
That is true. The statute, as well as ethical standards for attorneys, do require that as attorneys, we reflect ourselves as legal counsel at all times. And so, yes, there are very strict standards even for outside of the practice of the practice of lawyering.
Right. And one last thing, Nancy. Helen, do you disagree with the Court of Appeals approach in the Hall case, where it said first you find out what the profession is, then you ask the appropriate question about what the person is charged with, see if it substantially relates to the profession?
Far be it from me to argue with the Court of Appeals. And yes, I would find that approach would be appropriate as to first determine what is the profession, what duties and subject to review and observation that a profession may have in regards to how an item is substantially related. I believe you said that was the second factor?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, any other questions before I ask a couple myself? So Ms. Joffrey, the materials that were distributed and the training that we're conducting, do those apply to all boards and bureaus under the Department of Consumer Affairs or strictly to the California Board of Accountancy? Am I correct that they apply to all boards and bureaus as far as, defining and applying this concept of substantially related?
To an extent, Business and Professions Code 490 applies to all boards and bureaus within the Department of Consumer Affairs. 5100 within the Business and Professions Code is unique to the Board of Accountancy, of course, but it isn't necessarily unique in its design. Then the training is, of course, there is perhaps generic training and there is generic information that could be applied to all boards and bureaus. And certainly when cases cited regarding Board of Nursing, the Nursing Board would, of course, also apply to the Nursing Board. But there are designs in place that this was specifically directed towards the Board of Accountancy. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but there is some generic wide breadth that is in the training and the memo that would apply to everyone. But we did try to design it specifically for accountancy and use accountancy statutes and regulations.
Thank you, I understand. And so from reading the materials and pointing out that I have only been on the board since late 2018 as a result of my appointment by the governor, this training, similar training took place in 2014, 2015. And so what we're hearing in some of the materials presented, existed at that time as they do today. Has this board's application of the concept of substantially related been consistently applied? And I realize you are fairly new to our board. Mr. Marcroft, of course, has exposure to our board for many years. Have we been consistently applying, because I don't know that, and that's why I'm asking the question, have we been consistently applying that definition when we are analyzing our cases?
I'm happy to hop in here, President Corrigan, a little bit, since your questions are more broadly related to the department. I would say that generally the substantial relationship legal standard is something that's applicable throughout the department. As Ms. Joffrey was pointing out, the Board of the accountancy practice is naturally different than the practice of nursing, the practice of medicine, than the practice of law. That said, the concepts that courts apply when they are identifying whether something is substantial relationship, the reasoning that courts go through is reasoning that can be applied in accountancy, even if there isn't already a court decision applying it in that way. So when Ms. Joffrey references some of the examples that have been applied in other professions, the thinking behind that is courts tend to look at other court decisions when they go about approaching a new question. And so if it would be a new question because we're in the accountancy lane, that doesn't mean we can't glean some helpful guidance from how the courts have treated similar concepts in relation to other professions. So as far as consistency in this board, I think we'd have to do a little bit of digging. I suspect the answer is yes. I think that, as members come and go, there can be ebb and flow in views and in interest in how cases are prosecuted. Also, the law changes. For instance, the law just changed last July with the enactment of a bill that I think we're all familiar with, AB 2138. And part of that bill was to set a statutory criteria to consider when evaluating this question of substantial relationship. Those statutory criteria weren't there before AB 2138, but they are now. So, and those are laid out in the memorandum that you received. And so as the law changes, sometimes so too does how we apply the law. Another change that AB 2138 introduced is it made it so that certain crimes that before that law took effect no longer can be used to deny a license. That was nothing that the Board of Accountancy did. That was something that the legislature did. But now, going forward and applying the law, we're going to apply it to a more limited set of circumstances because the law has become more narrow. So I'm not sure. So I think the answer, I suspect the answer is yes, although I'm not positive. But there are also other changes that can occur that can account for differences over time.
Thank you very much for that information. And I do see some hands. Ms. Hines, yours was up first. I'm going to take your questions first.
Thank you. Actually, mine is more of a comment. I want to thank the staff, Ms. Joffrey and Mr. Marcroft for joining us, but Ms. Joffrey for the preparation and presentation of her memo. It was really very helpful and very informative. And it was, there was a, clarity and extensiveness to her citations that were really informative and helpful to me. And, I've been on the board now for, I think this is going on my 5th year. And, you receive your materials and, reference to all of the statutes and, regulations that you're expected to understand and apply in your service on this board. But it can be challenging to really have an appropriate understanding of, how to appropriately apply the rules and regulations and the law, in a variety of circumstances and in how to best serve as a member of the board. And particularly where, in the context of accounting, principles, I'm not an accountant, so I need assistance from staff and from, and I seek, assistance from other board members. And similarly, I am a lawyer, but I have to be reminded not to apply the principles of the law to, my service here because the mission of this board is to protect the consumer first and foremost, as opposed to the relationship that, comes along with being a lawyer. So I think it's really, I'm saying all of this to say that it would be helpful to have this kind of reminder training, about, some of these really specific, more nuanced, complex principles for board members, because as Mr. Marcroft stated, we come and go, we serve at the pleasure of the elected officials, who have appointed us. And, and it does take some time to get up to speed, to kind of understanding how to operate here. And, for something as significant as just making a decision as to, how to, whether or not to discipline a licensee and how we're going to best protect the public, it would be helpful to have check-ins about this, something like this every so often. So I really want to thank you again, for the preparation of the memo and then for allowing us the opportunity to have this conversation.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. And I had a discussion with Ms. Bowers about talking with DCA about maybe including this topic as a part of new board member orientation. It would be helpful for all of us. I'm an accountant, I'm not an attorney, yet these questions are very, very complex, very difficult to apply case by case. So I'm going to call on Mr. Savoy. He's been waiting patiently with his hand raised. Mr. Savoy?
Thank you, President Corrigan. Having been a board member since, I believe, late 2010, I stand as the longest sitting board member and probably the oldest, but that's not important. During my tenure, we were under the old rules as well as the new rules that have come about. And sitting here today, I can honestly say that the primary objective is the protection of the public and the consumers that we serve. With that in mind, I think we've evenly applied the rules as they're stated in looking at all decisions that we have made and being fair and honest, but always protecting the consumer as our main objective and mandate. And I believe we've done that throughout the course of my serving on the board, and will continue to do that as long as I serve on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, are there any other comments or questions to be posed to our guests this morning? And I see that Mr. Jacobson.
I just wanted to mention that while in fact that statute does exist and we follow it, that that we have as our duty to protect the public. Two things. One, part of the public is the accountant that is before us. Two, we have to protect the public within the law. So we can't, to take the greatest extreme, if someone if there's an accountant who has done something wrong, we can't go kill the accountant. We have to do it all within the law. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, while Helen, this may be the kiss of death to you, but I do want to mention that Helen and I have had a couple of in-depth conversations, and I find her acumen and her civility to be refreshing and appropriate. And I think, and while I have some specific disagreements with her memorandum, I think that reading her memorandum along with my memorandum gives a full globe of what the term means, substantial relationship, and how to apply it. And the way to apply it is, according to Hall, you find out what the profession is, if it's specifically delineated, and accounting is in the statute, and then you apply the question: was this act substantially related to that profession? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, to my knowledge, we have been complying with the law. If we haven't, I certainly, along with lots of other people, would want to know that. I would want to know that immediately from the Department of Consumer Affairs Legal Division. And I think in the materials it pointed out that at least 4 reviews by qualified individuals handle these cases, from the Attorney General's office, our own legal, which I referred to, administrative law judges, that sort of thing. So as far as I know, and I'm going to continue with the thought that we are following the law. Mr. Faneuil?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple quick observations and statements. One, just thanking everybody for sort of the refresh on this topic. I echo Board Member Farrell Hines. It's good to have a reminder on this topic. It is a difficult topic, and I think that's definitely appreciated to focus on that periodically, and especially for new board members. And I appreciate also the sort of legal nuances in the discussion. I did just want to make a few comments, particularly on the protection of the public, and also relating what CPAs actually are doing out there for the public. The CPAs, and while they all do a lot of different things, they are attesting to the accuracy of financial matters. They're relied upon heavily, both by financial transactions, whether that be banks, your pension funds, whatever it might be. And so the idea of sort of being able to draw sort of easy lines, or if it's just not directly something related to a financial sort of crime, if you will, I guess for especially the non-board members, I'd really sort of, you have to think a little broader than that, because they're being asked, CPAs are being asked really to not only in fact, but in appearance, bring a high degree of trust to the transactions that they're involved in on a daily basis. And the public expects that and needs that in order for the financial markets to operate. So it's not as simple of an argument in sort of what you could lay this out in the legal, but what really is going on here in that protection of the public trust is extremely important. And so we need to just be reminded of that. And that person's character is very important to the trust, in fact, and trust and appearance around transactions that occur. So again, I think this training's great. I do appreciate the views, both on both sides expressed, and just wanted to make that point. So thank you.
Thank you. Members, are there any other questions or comments for our guests? Seeing that there are none, moderator, would you please open for public comment? Thank you.
This is the moderator. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the Q&A icon located at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen and type, "I would like to make a comment" in the Ask field and send it to all panelists. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. I am moving on then to agenda item 4B, C, D, and E. These are resolutions for the following retired mobility stakeholders group members: Mr. Jeffrey DeLizer, CPA, Sean C. Lewis, Jim Sanji, CPA, Stuart Waldeman, Esquire. If any member would like to make a motion to accept the resolutions, please do so by using the raise hand feature. Wait to be called upon. Ms. Salazar.
I would like to make a motion to approve the resolutions for retiring mobility stakeholder members. Thank you.
And a second, Ms. Tu.
I would like to second that motion.
Any further discussion on this matter, members? Seeing that there are none, moderator, would you please open for public comment?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. If you would like to participate, click on that Q&A button and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote?
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez, Luz Molina Lopez, Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
yes,
Mark Silverman,
Yes.
Yin Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Because of some sensitive member timing, I'm going to opt to take the report of the Secretary Treasurer out of order. So I'm going to agenda item 6. Mr. Silverman.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you for accommodating my request. Provided for your review is my report containing the fiscal month 8 financial report for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. The CBA budget authority for the current fiscal year remains set at $16,323,000. As displayed on page 2, Actual expenditures and encumbrances as of February 28th were nearly 10.1 million and represent about 62% of the board's budget. Based on these figures, the CBA is projected to end fiscal year 2020 to 2021 with a budget surplus of approximately 11%. On page 5, our revenue reflects an increase of more than 21.7% over the same period in the previous year due to the license renewal and initial licensing fee increases that became effective January 1st, 2020. The fund condition shown on page 6 projects that the CBA will end the current fiscal year with 7.1 months in reserve. This concludes my presentation. Ms. Pierce has some additional information regarding an expenditure line item, so I will turn it over to her, and we are both happy to answer any questions member may have. Thank you.
Pierce, thank you, Mr. Silverman.
Thank you. I wanted to provide some additional information regarding the reduction in expenditures for the general expenses compared to last fiscal year. You'll see that there's been a kind of a significant reduction. Some of the difference is due to the new reporting format for our fiscal accounting system. Some items that were previously designated as general expense are now reflected on other budget line items. For example, a purchase of chairs used to be reported under general expense, and now it's under the equipment line item. And then there's also been some other changes, fewer office supplies needed, significantly reduced shipping costs for board meeting related materials. So that kind of provides some context regarding the reduction. I'll turn it back over to the president, and I'm available to answer any questions that members may have.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Silverman or Ms. Pierce? Ms. Tu, I see your hand. Do you have a question?
So sorry, that was my motion earlier. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. Has there been, I've noticed that there was, I believe, a 9.3 reduction in salary for our staff over an overall cut due to the COVID crisis. Yet I've heard through the general press that the state is doing pretty well because we have a progressive tax system. I know that our budget is separate. Anyways, has there been any discussion about restoring that 9.3%?
Ms. Pierce?
Nothing as of yet. So the May revise by the governor is due tomorrow, I believe. So it's possible we may have an update at some point next week. And as soon as we have that information, we can provide it to the board.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the members? Seeing that there are none, moderator, would you please request the questions open for the public? Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the Q&A button and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. I'm moving on to agenda item 4F. This is an overview of the process to apply for and resources available to become a successful California Board of Accountancy member. The Department of Consumer Affairs has requested that all boards place this item on their meeting agenda regarding the recruitment and appointment of new members. So individuals interested in serving on the CBA must understand the application process, expectations of their role, and the resources available to assist in a successful transition to becoming a board member. The CBA consists of 15 members. We currently have 14, so we have one vacancy. 7 of the members must be certified public accountants. 8 must be public members who are not licensees of the CBA. The governor appoints 4 of the public members and all of the licensee members. The Senate Rules Committee and the Speaker of the Assembly each appoints 2 public members. Individuals interested in applying need to contact the correct appointing authority, therefore, based on the vacancy they seek to fill. CBA presently has 1 vacancy, as I mentioned, and individuals interested can find information on the governor's webpage regarding the application process. There's a link on the front page of the CBA's website that will take you to that webpage. As previously mentioned, non-licensees, non-licensed members can be appointed by any of the authorities identified. A non-licensee individual seeking appointment by the Senate Rules Committee or the Speaker of the Assembly can find information included in the agenda materials. Individuals who are appointed to serve as a CBA member have a critical role in serving California consumers. Please note that it's beneficial for the individual to have some foundational skills as stated in the agenda materials. The availability to fully participate in all CBA-related meetings and activities is also imperative. I know, as I know each of the members are aware, there are many resources available to assist newly appointed members. As president, my first communication will be an email reaching out to the new member and then encouraging that we talk further on a telephone call so I can provide an overview. I generally recommend that they watch archived meetings of the board, full board, the committees, to get a flavor for how the board conducts its business. The CBA executive officer and staff then contact the new member and provide, as we all know, a significant amount of personnel-related paperwork and board-related documents, and they give us everything we need for that smooth transition. I can vouch for that. This is followed by 2 different orientation sessions, one with the DCA and one with the CBA executive staff and the president. So we also have an established mentor program for new members. The president will assign an established member to kind of oversee and guide that new member and to work closely and help them through answering any questions that they may have. And so that the mentoring process has worked very well for this board. If there are any individuals watching this webcast who are interested in becoming a CBA member, or if any of our current members or stakeholders are aware of an individual that has an interest in and the qualifications for applying and possibly being appointed to the CBA, there's a significant amount of information on the website, and we encourage you to look into that. Additionally, I'm happy to speak with individuals who may have questions regarding the process, regarding being a CBA member, and those interested in talking with me can contact our executive officer to schedule a telephone call. Members, do you have any questions regarding these materials? Seeing that there are none, moderator, please open for public comment.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on that Q&A icon and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Please, thank you. And I'm now moving on to agenda item 4G. This is the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, or AICPA Committee Interest Form for the 2022-23 volunteer year. And the AICPA announced that on June 1st, they will begin accepting applications for that volunteer year. Those interested in serving on committee should complete the online committee interest application no later than October 1st, 2021. An overview of the AICPA volunteer environment is provided as an attachment, and to ensure that staff track members' interests, what you're interested in applying for, what you have applied for, please notify by email Rebecca Reed, our CBA Board Relations Analyst, so that she can do the appropriate tracking for that. If you have any questions regarding the AIC committees, please contact Ms. Reed as well, and she will be very happy to assist you in that regard. I am moving on to agenda item 4H, discussion regarding remote proctoring of the Uniform Certified Public Accountant Examination. Ms. Michelle Center, our Chief of the Licensing Division. Ms. Center.
Thank you, President Corrigan. For this item, the CBA is asked to discuss NASBA's response to the DCA's Office of Professional Examination Services, or OPUS, regarding the use of remote proctoring of the CPA exam. At the January 2021 CBA meeting, NASBA presented on ProMetrics ProProctor product. That product is a web-based application that would allow the CPA exam to be taken outside of a testing center. NASBA anticipates piloting ProProctor beginning in June of this year. In September 2020, OPUS recommended boards evaluate certain factors prior to making decisions on remote proctoring. At the request of CBA, NASBA specifically addressed the factors identified by OPUS for consideration. The NASBA response can be found in Attachment 1. In cooperation with legal counsel and DCA, CBA staff will continue to assess the ProProctor solution using the factors recommended by OPUS and any additional considerations recommended by the board. Staff will also continue to report back on the results of such evaluations at future board meetings. As a reminder, the CBA is not being asked to make a determination on the use of ProProctor at this time. I would like to turn discussion on this topic back over to President Corrigan, and will do my best to answer member questions.
Thank you, Ms. Center. Members, do we have any questions or comments regarding Ms. Center's report? I see no hands. Moderator, would you please open for public comment?
Thank you. This is the moderator. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you. I am going to then move a little bit forward on the agenda and take agenda item 5, report of the Vice President, Mr. Savoy.
Thank you, Madam President. Let's go to item 5, letter A, the appointment, reappointment to the Enforcement Advisory Committee. This item is to recommend the appointment of Alan M. Gettleson, CPA, to the Enforcement Advisory Committee. The Enforcement Advisory Committee assists the CBA in an advisory capacity with enforcement activities. This includes reviewing closed investigation files, providing technical guidance on open investigations, and participating in investigative hearings. I have conferred with the CBA executive officer to verify that this individual has met the appropriate requirements for license renewal and has demonstrated the skills and knowledge to serve as a member of the Enforcement Advisory Committee. I would like to make a motion to appoint Alan M. Gettleson, CPA, to the Enforcement Advisory Committee effective May 14th, 2021 through May 31st, 2023. And I'd like to turn it back over to President Corrigan to ask for a second.
Thank you, Mr. Savoy. Mr. Jacobson, may I have a second, please?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Members, is there any further discussion regarding this specific agenda item? Seeing that there are none, moderator, would you please open for public comment?
The Q&A is now open for public comment. If you would like to participate, click on that Q&A icon and type "I would like to make a comment" and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote and give us the result?
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
Mark Silverman,
Yes.
Yen Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Savoy, please proceed.
Next item is item 5, letter B, the appointment, reappointment to the Qualifications Committee. This item is to recommend the appointment of Jeffrey T. Baginski, CPA, and Hanzu Meg, CPA, to the Qualifications Committee. The Qualifications Committee assists the CBA in its license renewal activities by reviewing the experience of applicants for licensure and making recommendations to the CBA. This includes conducting work paper reviews with the applicant or the employer present to verify that the responses provided are reflective of the requisite experience for licensure. I've conferred with the CBA executive officer to verify that each individual has met the appropriate requirements for a license renewal and have demonstrated the skills and knowledge to serve as a member on the Qualifications Committee. I therefore would like to make a motion to appoint Jeffrey T. Baginski, CPA, and Hanzu Meg, CPA, the Qualifications Committee, effective May 14, 2021 through May 31st, 2023. I'd like to turn it back over to President Corrigan to get a second.
Thank you, Mr. Savoy. Members, may I have a second? Ms. Owens?
Yes, I will second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this specific agenda item from the members? I see no raised hands. Moderator, would you please open for public comment?
This is the moderator. Q&A is now open. If you would like to participate, click on that Q&A icon and type "I would like to make a comment" and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote? Provide us with the result.
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
Mark Silverman,
Yes.
Yen Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Savoy, does that complete your report?
Yes, it does, Madam President. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good. I am moving back to agenda item 4I, Department of Consumer Affairs Director's Report on Departmental Activities, Mr. Ryan Perez. Welcome, Mr. Perez.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Can hear you. Please proceed. Thank you.
Very good. Good morning, Board President Corrigan, board members, Executive Officer Bowers, and CBA staff. Thank you for your flexibility this morning. I am Ryan Perez with the Board and Bureau Relations Division at the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Mr. Perez, actually now we cannot hear you very well. It's very light.
Has it improved at all?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you again for allowing me this opportunity to provide a department update to the board. COVID-19 has affected every aspect of our work for more than a year now. And thank you to Executive Officer Bowers and board staff who have been working tirelessly to maintain excellent customer service throughout these challenging times. DCA offices remain open with preventative measures to safeguard the health and safety of our employees and visitors. Board and bureaus are looking ahead to what changes can be made permanent for efficiency and employee well-being, such as telework and eliminating paper processes. I encourage all members and the public to visit DCA's COVID-19 website for updates and resources on the state's reopening plan, public health guidance, vaccinator resources, vaccine distribution, and more. I'm also happy to share that the salary increase for Executive Officer Bowers has been approved. So thank you. DCA is receiving many questions about when and how boards will be able to meet again in person. And while I don't have a definitive answer for you today, I would like to offer some clarification. As you know, the ability of the board to meet remotely is tied to the governor's executive orders and the state of emergency. When these are lifted, the board will be required to follow all aspects of the Open Meetings Act, including publicly noticed and accessible locations. We do not yet know when this will happen or if any changes in the law will occur prior to that date. DCA will do all it can to assist the boards and bureaus to transition safely and with enough time to plan for in-person meetings. One of our top priorities in board and bureau relations is appointments, and I would like to provide just a brief overview. Currently, the board has one vacancy. Again, that was the position formerly held by Member Corolla Nicholson. The department, as well as all the appointing authorities, share in the goal of a fully seated, diverse, and effective board. If any members know of any great candidates, or if any members of the public attending the meeting are interested in serving, please find the link titled Board Member Resources on DC's homepage to apply for an appointment. For current board members, 2021 is a mandatory sexual harassment prevention training year. This means that all employees and board members are required to complete the training during this year. I'd also like to remind you that Form 700 filings were due April 1st, and if any members of the board have not yet completed that, it should be your top priority. If there are any questions about that process, please contact the department's Conflict of Interest Filing Officer, Jill Johnson, in DC's Office of Human Resources. As always, Board and Bureau Relations is here to help, and if there's anything that we can do to assist, please feel free to reach out. This concludes my presentation, and I will hand it back over to President Corrigan.
Thank you, as always, Mr. Perez, and a congratulations to Ms. Bowers and the accomplishment of increasing not only the salary, but the level. So that's fantastic. Members, any questions or comments for Mr. Perez? Well, I want to say that I attended the DCA's Brown Bag meeting on March 30th. They continue to be exceptional and very, very informative. This was a presentation by Dr. Maxine Papadakis, University of California, San Francisco Medicine, a Professor of Medicine Emeritus, Associate Dean of Student Emeritus. And she reported on the study of long-term outcome of disciplinary action on behavior as a professional. And the study linked unprofessional behavior and long-term disciplinary action as key indicators of future behavior. And the definition of professional was one of, is a person you can trust to do the right thing even when no one is looking. Very important definition. I like that. So the study was to gauge the demonstration of professionalism to a graduate as a medical expert, which needs to be a longitudinal demonstration, not a stop and start demonstration. So very important. Anything else, members, for Mr. Perez? And if not, moderator, would you please open for public comment? Thank you.
This is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on that Q&A icon and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you again, Mr. Perez. We look forward to your next report. I'm moving on to agenda item 7, which is regulations. A, discussion and possible action to amend Title 16, California Code of Regulations, Section 12.5, a test experience form for experience under Business and Profession Code, Section 5095. Ms. Pierce, our Assistant Executive Officer.
Thank you. Good morning. The purpose of this agenda item is twofold. One is to provide the California Board of Accountancy the opportunity to consider any public comments and provide responses. And two, it's to provide the CBA an opportunity to adopt proposed amendments to Title 16 California Code of Regulations, Section 12.5. The CBA initiated this rulemaking following the AICPA's issuance of the Statement on Standards for Accounting and Review Services, SARS, number 21, which created a new level of accounting and auditing service for engagements to prepare financial statements. These changes necessitated revisions to the language on the Certificate of Attest Experience forms that are required from applicants applying for CPA licensure with the authority to sign attest reports. Sections 5 and 6 on the forms contain clarifying language to ensure proper reporting in those sections. The proposed changes would also make minor and non-substantive edits to the personal information and collection and access notice on the forms. As detailed on pages 2 and 3 of the agenda item, in order to effectuate regulatory changes, the CBA must adhere to the Administrative Procedure Act provisions in the Government Code, commonly referred to as the rulemaking process. One of the primary purposes of the rulemaking process is to provide the public an opportunity to participate in a state agency's consideration and adoption of a regulation. The CBA has followed all the required steps, including the filing of necessary documents with the Office of Administrative Law, specifically attachments 1, 2, and 3, to allow the 45-day public comment period to occur, which concluded on May 3rd, 2021. The CBA also conducted the public hearing at its office on May 4th, 2021. The rulemaking process requires the CBA to consider any public comments and, based on those comments, whether to amend and adopt the proposed regulatory text. For this rulemaking, the CBA did not receive any written comments during the 45-day comment period, nor were any comments received at the public hearing. The final step is for the CBA to adopt the proposed regulatory text. The CBA has two options for a motion to adopt the proposed changes to CBA Regulation Section 12.5. However, as no comments were received and if no additional changes are requested by the CBA, staff recommend that the CBA adopt the motion identified in option 1 as follows. Adopt the regulatory text in Title 16 California Code of Regulations Section 12.5. Direct staff to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking file, including submitting to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs, the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency, and Office of Administrative Law, and also authorize the Executive Officer to make any non-substantive changes to the proposed regulations and adopt the proposed regulations as originally noticed. At this time, I will turn it back to the President for a possible motion, and I'm happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce. Members, do we have any questions regarding Ms. Pierce's presentation or the materials presented? Mr. Jacobson?
I move that we adopt option 1.
Thank you. Members, do I have a second? Ms. Salazar?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion before we open for public comment? Seeing none, moderator, would you please open for public comment on this topic?
Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on that Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote and provide the results?
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Page,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
Mark Silverman,
Yes.
Ian Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7B, discussion and possible action to amend Title 16, California Code of Regulations, Section 19, practice privilege forms for individual. Again, Ms. Pierce, our Assistant Executive Officer.
Thank you so much, and appreciate your patience. Some of this is repetitive statements, but I need to get it into the record. So the purpose of this agenda item is twofold. One, to provide the California Board of Accountancy the opportunity to consider any public comments and provide responses. And two, to provide the CBA an opportunity to adopt proposed amendments to Title 16, California Code of Regulations, Section 19. The CBA initiated this rulemaking pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 5096.21, part of the CBA's mobility provisions, which required the CBA to evaluate other states to determine whether allowing individuals from a particular state to practice in California pursuant to a practice privilege violated the CBA's duty to protect the public. If a determination was made, the CBA would, through a majority vote at a regularly scheduled meeting, require individuals from that state to submit a notification form prior to practicing in California. Although all states were found to have met the criteria outlined in Business and Professions Code Section 5096.21, this regulatory proposal seeks to update the regulation, the CBA Regulation Section 19, by adding a new notification form for individuals to submit and incorporating said form by reference. This will ensure that the CBA has a mechanism as required by Business and Professions Code Sections 5096.21 and 5096.22 for individuals to submit the required notification form should one become necessary. As detailed on pages 2 and 3 of the agenda item, in order to effectuate regulatory changes, the CBA must adhere to the Administrative Procedures Act provisions in the Government Code, which is referred to as the rulemaking process. The CBA has followed all of the required steps, including the filing of the necessary documents with the Office of Administrative Law, specifically attachments 1, 2, and 3, to allow the 45-day public comment period to occur, which concluded on May 3rd, 2021. The CBA also conducted the public hearing at its office on May 4th, 2021. The rulemaking process requires the CBA to consider any public comments and, based on those comments, whether to amend and adopt the proposed regulatory text. For this rulemaking, the CBA did not receive any written comments during the 45-day comment period, nor were any comments received at the public hearing. The final step is for the CBA to adopt the proposed regulatory text. As I stated in the prior one, the CBA has two options for a motion to adopt the proposed changes to Regulation Section 19. However, as no comments were received and if no additional changes are requested by the CBA, staff recommend that the CBA adopt the motion identified in option 1 as follows. Adopt the regulatory text in Title 16, California Code of Regulations, Section 19. Direct staff to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking file, including submitting to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs, the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency, and Office of Administrative Law, and authorize the Executive Officer to make any non-substantive changes to the proposed regulations and adopt the proposed regulations as originally noticed. At this time, I will turn it back to the President for a possible motion, and I'm happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce. Members, do we have any questions or comments, or would we like to make a motion in connection with this item? Mr. Jacobson.
I move to adopt option 1, please.
Thank you. Members, do I have a second? Ms. Owens?
Yes, I will second.
Thank you. Members, any further discussion before we open for public comment on this agenda item? I see that there are no raised hands. Moderator, please open for public comment. Thank you.
The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, you can click on that Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to our panelists. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. Ms. Reed, please call for the vote and provide the result.
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
Mark Silverman,
Yes.
Yin Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 8, report of the executive officer. A is discussion regarding the development of the California Board of Accountancy 2022 through 24 strategic plan. Mr. Patrick Ibarra, our information and planning officer.
Good morning. President Corrigan, members of the board, I'm Patrick Ibarra, Information and Planning Officer with the CBA. I'll be presenting on the discussion regarding the development of the California Board of Accountancy's 2022 to 2024 strategic plan. The purpose of this agenda item is to provide the board with an overview of upcoming activities, some already underway, that will assist in the development of its upcoming strategic plan. The goal of the strategic plan process, which I'll detail a bit further, is to identify the CBA's strengths and weaknesses and build a plan for the CBA with goals and objectives for the next 3 years. In February of this year, staff, working collaboratively with the DCA Strategic Organizational Leadership and Individual Development Planning Solutions, or SOLID, initiated work to develop the CBA strategic plan, but that was just the beginning. Significant work still needs to be completed this year to gather information as part of an environmental scan, which will be used during a strategic planning workshop scheduled to occur with you fine folks at the September 2021 CBA meeting. To develop the environmental scan, from now until then, DCA SOLID will conduct telephone interviews with CBA members between July 5th and July 16th. An online survey will be sent to all members of the CBA statutory committees. A survey will be sent to CBA stakeholders, including individuals on the CBA's e-news list. DCA SOLID will hold an interview with the CBA's senior management, and DCA SOLID will conduct a focus group with CBA managers. Through this process, the CBA will receive input on any trends or changes that could impact the CBA or opportunities and threats the CBA should consider. This information will be used to conduct the DCA SOLID-led workshop at the September CBA meeting. Following that meeting, DCA SOLID will then prepare a draft 2022 to 2024 strategic plan, which will be presented for review and possible approval at the November 2021 CBA meeting. While there is no action required on this item and staff do not have a recommendation, we do welcome any feedback from the CBA. That concludes my presentation on this agenda item. I'll now turn it back over to President Corrigan, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ibarra. Members, any questions or comments for Mr. Ibarra? Mr. Jacobson.
Does the news list include a substantial number of our licensees?
Yes, it does. It's what are we at now? We're up close to 100,000 on our e-news list. So it does include all licensees that we have in our system, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, members? Moderator, please open for public comment on this topic. Thank you.
Members of the public, the Q&A is now open. Click on that Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment" and send it to all panelists. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close that Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. And moving on to agenda item 8B, again, under this same area, update on the California Board of Accountancy's communications and outreach. Mr. Ibarra, again, our information and planning officer.
Thank you once again, President Corrigan. Members of the board, I'm once again Patrick Ibarra. The CBA recently completed a successful run of 5 outreach events over the spring 2021 semester. The last 3 of these happened since the March CBA meeting. On April 14th, the CBA teamed up with San Jose State University for an event attended by 80 of its accounting students. President Corrigan spoke about the role of the CBA and value of the CPA title, and CBA staff members Suzanne Gracia and Jennifer Huddy explained the qualifications and application process for the CPA exam and licensure. San Jose State alumni currently working as CPAs also spoke about their career paths since graduation. The following week, on April 21st, the CBA partnered with Cal Poly Pomona for an event similar to the one last fall, which featured individual student assessments in addition to our presentations on the application process for the CPA exam and licensure. Over 100 students tuned in as President Corrigan spoke along with Suzanne Gracia and CBA staff members Ramona Bermudez and David Hemphill. One-on-one student transcript assessments were conducted by CBA staff members Jennifer Jackson, Diane Edwards, Delia Thomas, and Jennifer Huddy. The final event occurred on May 4th with CSU San Bernardino. Members of the Inland Empire chapter of Cal CPA that are alumni of the university also spoke at the event. University staff opened the event up to other schools in the area, and 100 students in total from 16 different campuses attended. President Corrigan was joined by CBA staff David Hemphill and Ramona Bermudez for the presentations, and Jennifer Huddy and Jennifer Jackson helped answer the many student questions which followed. The questions ranged from 2024 CPA exam changes and courses allowed to fulfill the examination education requirements, to advice on internships and work experience leading up to applying for a CPA license. With the spring semester now in the rearview mirror, CBA staff are making plans to host our own outreach event later this year. We look forward to sharing more details at an upcoming meeting. The communications team is hard at work getting the word out about the CBA's new online licensing application. Many changes were made to the CBA website, altering the language to reflect the new online option, including a prominent announcement on the front page. Go check it out when you get a chance. A video is being created and narrated by David Hemphill and produced by the video team at DCA. Social media messages were posted, including a new banner to head our Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages. The online application was also highlighted in presentation to the students at the Pomona and San Bernardino outreach events. The CBA is beginning efforts to take advantage of the ever-expanding world of podcasting. Equipment was ordered in late April, and staff is exploring topics to present in the inaugural episodes to happen later this year. CBA social media pages continue to grow, adding another 200 followers in February, March, and April. Staff provides excellent customer service in answering the many stakeholder questions asked over private messages through Facebook and Twitter. And that concludes my presentation on this agenda item. I'll now turn it back over to President Corrigan, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ibarra. Excellent report. The activities have been outstanding, largely attributable to CBA staff. Outstanding. The results have been very good. And I see a bunch of hands raised. I'm going to start with you, Ms. Leon, as it has been, your hand has been raised the whole time. Thank you.
Thank you. This is wonderful and exciting. So my quick follow-up, and you might have briefly mentioned it, but for students that weren't able to participate in these events, did the events get recorded and are they available on the CBA website, YouTube, or where can I tell students to go?
Mr. Ibarra or Ms. Pierce, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that we have in the past recorded them prior to doing the virtual ones, but I think that's an excellent idea, and we can see if we can get a recording of those and perhaps put them on a YouTube type channel so that it meets accessibility requirements with closed caption and all that. So that's an excellent idea, and we will report back on that at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Owens?
Yes, and I'll echo the comments. I mean, this is wonderful, and thank you for the update. I just wanted to better understand how the different schools that the events happen at and the outreach, how are those identified and determined?
Our CBA staff member, David Hemphill, does a bunch of outreach efforts. He will email professors, and some of this communication has been going on prior to this year too. There's follow-up from previous year events that were either in person or virtual. So there's a lot of interest that comes our way, and once we receive that interest, we explore what the event could look like and go from there, which is why we continue to do outreach efforts. We've had 5 already this year, much more than we had last year because of that exploration and communication between campuses.
Thank you. Ms. Pierce, would you add to that, please?
Yes, I also just want to, in addition to what Mr. Ibarra said, is we've been able to partner with Cal CPA, who has been just a great partner in our outreach efforts. And they have a really good reach to the different educational institutions throughout the state. So they have been just really great at coordinating and inviting and just kind of collaborating on some of the different events. And then also, I want to recognize President Corrigan. She has, definitely helped with the events at Cal Poly and some of the others. And so some of that comes up just based on member suggestion as well. And so, so we kind of use lots of different methods to kind of identify the different schools and to try to get the message out.
Thank you. Mr. Pei?
Yes, thank you, President. Mr. Ibarra, I want to thank you for this amazing presentation, because it's really good to see the engagement and understanding how information is being traveled through these new platforms and being addressed. One comment I do have is, along with your podcasting, you might want to start to look into Clubhouse. Clubhouse is the new form of radio for the younger generations moving forward. So I would definitely start looking into that, because it's a form that everybody's starting to use. It's really fresh right now, but something that you can probably benefit in the longer run in a really good form to really grab that younger generation or that new type of licensee.
Thank you, Mr. Pei. Excellent. Ms. Salazar?
Thank you, President Corrigan. The ask I have is a request for staff. I know we will get recaps from the executive director. Is it possible to have information about some of these outreach events maybe sent to us in an email that's in an easy format for just copying on, like with some images, just to copy onto, like for myself on my own LinkedIn page? So I know we have the information, but sort of in a larger document, or, can we get something in advance to assist in any promotion if we have channels, social media channels as individuals that we could assist with? So if that's possible, I would welcome maybe a reminder or some information in an email to assist with any distribution of just getting the word out. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing. It's great.
Good, yes, and it looks like that is going to happen. It's very possible. Thank you, Ms. Salazar. Ms. Melina Lopez.
Thank you, Madam President. This is very exciting. Thank you, Mr. Ibarra. I do enjoy podcasts, and the idea of a DCA or CBA podcast actually is exciting, and I can't wait to see what that will sound like. Also, as far as outreach, I would like to encourage further outreach within my town, which is San Diego, and actually in the South Bay of San Diego, and increase, I would love to see more outreach to the underserved populations and underrepresented populations within public accounting. So anything that you can do there, I'm happy to help as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Tu?
Ms. Melania already pretty much addressed what I was going to share. I know San Diego State has a fantastic program on accounting, and they are always doing a lot of activities. So I have a lot of contact with that university if there's any need for me to help out.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure staff will reach out to you in that regard. Thank you, Ms. Tu. Anything further, board members? Ms. Salazar, anything further? Thank you. Moderator, please open for any public comment.
The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on that Q&A icon located at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Ibarra, Ms. Pierce. I'm going to move on to agenda item 9, which is report on our advisory committees. We will defer 9A for just a few minutes, but 9C, the Peer Review Oversight Committee, we have Renee Graves, our chair of the PROC. Ms. Graves?
Hi, thank you for inviting me today. And can everyone hear me okay?
Can hear you, thank you.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. So the PROC held our meeting via WebEx video conference on April 30th, 2021. And I would like to thank CBA Liaison Mark Silverman for attending our meeting and providing an overview of the CPA's activities from the March 25-26 CBA meeting. At our April 30th, 2021 meeting, the PROC approved the February 12th, 2021 meeting minutes, highlighted the 2021 PROC activities and assignments, reported on the National Peer Review Committee's 2019 Annual Report on Oversight, reviewed and discussed peer review statistical data from the AICPA, and established a subcommittee to update checklists for the administrative site visit to the California Society of Certified Public Accountants. I would like to share that a non-substantive change was made to the February 2021 PROC meeting minutes. It was agenda item 4D, and the corrected version has been posted to the CBA website. The next PROC meeting will be held on August 13, 2021, again via teleconference. So thank you, and that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Graves, and thank you for your service on the PROC. We really appreciate that. Members, do you have any questions or comments for Ms. Graves? Seeing that there are none, moderator, would you please open for public comment?
The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on that Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. And thank you again, Ms. Graves.
Thank you.
Members, at this time, I would like for us to take a 15-minute break and start promptly again at 10:55. So you can stop your videos and mute your mics, and we'll return in 15 minutes. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. It's always important to reestablish that we have a quorum when we take those breaks. And anyway, I am proceeding with agenda item 9A1, Enforcement Advisory Committee, Mr. Doug Aguilera, our chair. Mr. Aguilera, welcome, and thank you for everything you do for the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, President Corrigan, and thank you to the board for allowing me to make this brief presentation. The Enforcement Advisory Committee held its meeting on May 6, 2021 via the online platform WebEx. The EAC conducted 2 investigative hearings. I would like to thank the CBA member, Ms. Robinson, for attending the EAC meeting and providing an update on CBA activities. It was appreciated. Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Our next meeting will be held on July 8th, 2021 via WebEx. That concludes my report, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilera. Members, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Aguilera? And I don't see any raised hands. Moderator, would you please open for public comment?
Thank you. The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click that Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
please do. Thank you again, Mr. Aguilera. We really appreciate you. I'm moving on to agenda item 10, report of the enforcement chief, Mr. Dominic Franzella, Chief Enforcement Division.
Good morning. So the activity report before members today represents 9 months of data for fiscal year 2020-2021. I'll kind of just go through the various areas. And so beginning with complaints received, the CBA has received just over 2,000 complaints through the 9 months. And it's a slight decrease compared to the same period of the prior fiscal year. Moving on to investigations and investigations pending, which is on pages 3 to 5 of your report. Staff have closed just over 1,900 cases, with 94% of those being closed within 1 year. On page 4, members will note enforcement has 823 cases in its pending investigations inventory. There are presently 10 cases over 20, or there were at that 9-month mark, 10 cases over 24 months. Staff are continuing to make progress on these cases, and several should be resolved or forwarded to the AG's office by the next month. To aid in addressing that aging inventory, the staff were able to conduct 2 off-cycle investigative hearings in March, and 2 more were conducted as part of the EAC meeting earlier this month. As for discipline, discipline-related information can be found on pages 6 to 9 of the report. Beginning with the AG referrals, the CBA has referred 40 matters to the AG, with the vast majority of those being accusations. The CBA has 44 matters pending at the AG's office. Lastly, and of the 44 cases, 1 is over 24 months, but that matter is now off this report as it took effect on May 3rd. And lastly, the CBA has taken action on 33 final disciplinary orders, with the vast majority of those orders being stipulated settlements. Moving on to citation and fine, which is on pages 10 and 11 of your report. The CBA has issued 281 citations, with 65% of those citations being for the 20 and 12 requirements, or the minimum yearly CE requirement. Again, as noted in the last iteration of the year, the citation processing time has increased from the last fiscal year. However, the processing time did decrease since the last report, which was sitting at 220 days, is now at 198 days. And again, a lot of those, that increase is attributed to extra time, and that factored in as part of the COVID-19 pandemic. On page 12, members will see a new section of citation and fine appeals and outcomes. At the request of a CBA member, staff have included this section regarding the citations, appeals, and associated outcomes. The CBA has received 49 citation appeals or citation and fine appeals. In several instances, the citations has been withdrawn because the licensee provided mitigation not previously provided to the CBA, or is often the case as well, the licensee complies with the issue that resulted in the issuance of the citation, for example, providing responses or documentation previously requested. Moving on to page 12, unlicensed activity, the CBA has received 209 complaints regarding unlicensed activity, and has closed 190 of those has closed 190 matters this year for compliance purposes, and 201 cases total. We have seen a significant increase in complaints received related to practice without a permit. We have a high volume that has come in from a handful of individuals who have filed complaints on this particular complaint type, and staff are reviewing and addressing accordingly. Lastly, probation monitoring, which is on pages 13 and 14 of the report. We presently have 122 individuals on probation, and we have identified 62 probation violations, with the vast majority, as always, being submitting quarterly reports. At this time, I'd like to turn discussion on this item back over to President Corrigan, and I'll do my best to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you, Mr. Franzella. Members, do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Franzella regarding his report? I see no raised hands. Moderator, would you please open for the public? Thank you.
The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, you can click on that Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Board President, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. And I'm moving on to agenda item 11, report of the licensing chief. 11A, the licensing activity report. Ms. Michelle Center, Chief Licensing Division. Thank you.
Thank you, President Corrigan. This licensing activity report, or LAR, covers July 1, 2020 through March 31, 2021. On April 5th, when the LAR was prepared, the initial licensing unit was processing applications within 41 days. I'm pleased to report that CPA licensing applications, as well as exam applications, are now being processed within the 30-day processing goal. Specifically, CPA licensing applications are being processed in 23 days and exam applications within 14 days. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of my team in reducing our processing times. The much anticipated online CPA application was launched on April 20th. This online application allows licensing applicants to submit a complete initial licensing application online. We have had over 90 applications successfully submitted using the new online application, and we look forward to that number growing. The Department of Consumer Affairs issued a new continuing education extension waiver on March 30th, 2021. It is important to note that the new waiver supersedes all previous waivers. That means that all licensees expiring between March 2020 and May 2021 have until September 30th, 2021 to complete their continuing education requirements. If you turn your attention to page 1 of the LAR, it shows we received over 52,000 applications between July 1, 2020 and March 31, 2021. Of those, approximately 65% were license renewal applications. There were over 120,000 stakeholder inquiries in the form of emails and telephone calls. This is inclusive of CBA calls directed to the DCA call center. The report also contains trend information beginning on page 2. As you can see in tables 3 and 4, the number of CPA exam applications and CPA applications received remains fairly consistent compared to the same time period of the previous 2 fiscal years. On pages 5 through 7, data related to renewal deficiencies and continuing education audits are displayed. Table 8 highlights the number of deficiencies identified compared to the total number of applications reviewed. To date, over 14,000 renewal applications have been reviewed. Table 9 shows the outcome of the deficiencies that were identified. As of March 31, there were 655 outstanding deficiencies. This number includes licensees who may be outstanding only due to COVID-19 extensions that were granted for completion of continuing education. Continuing education audits were temporarily paused due to COVID-19, but have since resumed. As of March 31, 200 licensees have been selected for an audit. At the time the LAR was prepared, 142 audits were still pending and 54 have been completed. On page 10, you will notice a new section for statistics related to military and refugee, Asylee, and special immigrant visa holders. The CBA began tracking this data as of January 2021, so there is no historical data at this time. Applicants that fall under this category receive priority processing. The processing time for these applications are below the application processing time for all other applicants and is expected to decrease over time as procedures become fully implemented. Please note that there were non-substantive changes made to the law, and the corrected version has been posted to the CBA website. That concludes my presentation. I will now turn it back over to President Corrigan.
Thank you, Ms. Center. Members, questions and comments regarding this report? Ms. Molina Lopez.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And thank you, Ms. Center. I really do appreciate this report. I especially appreciate the fact that most, if not all of these graphics on, or the tables, sorry, are adjusted for past years for the same period as we are reviewing for the current year. And I really do appreciate that. It helps me understand the numbers and how they compare side by side, because the time periods for each year is adjusted accordingly. So I really do appreciate that. And I also did want to give out appreciation for that last piece of information, the military and refugee asylee special immigrant visa holders statistics. This is something new, and I'm happy to see this on here. I think it's relevant information, and I look forward to more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the members? Seeing no raised hands, moderator, would you open for public comment, please?
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the Q&A icon located at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. I do have an individual identified as Jason Fox that would like to make a comment. Jason, your mic has been unmuted.
Hi, Jason Fox with the California Society of CPAs. I just want to recognize the board staff's hard work on moving the backlog or getting through the backlog. I think that's a huge accomplishment, and I appreciate the transparency on the weekly post for students and candidates. We've gotten a lot of good feedback on how that's been helpful. And then I also want to recognize the board on their work on setting up the online application process, and look forward to extending that to the renewal process in the coming months. I think that's a huge accomplishment, long overdue, but we really appreciate the board's efforts on that. So thank you.
Board President, no further requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fox. We really appreciate that hearing that from you. And yes, please close. I will be moving on then to agenda item 12, meeting minutes. A is adoption of the minutes of the March 25th, 26th, 2021 California Board of Accountancy meeting. Members, may I have a motion to adopt those minutes, which include non-substantive edits that were noted after the materials were received? Ms. Owens?
Yes, I move to adopt the minutes.
Thank you. May I have a second? Mr. Pei?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members, regarding this agenda item? Seeing that there are none, moderator, please open for Mr. Jacobson. Do you have a comment?
I just want to very quickly on page 20,400. I think that there's a point where Patricia D is listed as another participant, and I don't know if that is the person's name or if there was a failure to just complete the name. That's all. And
Mr. Jacobson, I raised the same comment, and that's the name that was provided, and that's all the individual is required to provide. So there we have it. That's all we can do. Thank you. Anything else from the members? And seeing no raised hands, moderator, please open for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. The Q&A is now open. If you would like to participate, click on the Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. No requests has been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Please do. Ms. Reed, please call for the vote. Give us the result. Thank you.
George Familat,
Abstain.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes. Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Abstain.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
Yin Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. And I'm moving on now to agenda item 12B, C, D, E, and F, which is has to do with our adoption or acceptance of our committee meeting minutes, which include non-substantive edits that were noted after the materials received. Members, do I have a motion to accept those minutes? Members, I need a motion to accept those minutes. Ms. Tu.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to accept these minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Savoy.
I second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion from the members on this agenda item? Seeing that there are, Mr. Jacobson.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the item number that it is?
Well, it's going to be agenda item 12B, C, D, E, and F.
Thank you.
Thank you. And any further discussion from the members? I see that there are no discussions posed. Moderator, please open for public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click that Q&A icon, send "I would like to make a comment" to all panelists. No requests are submitted. Would you like to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote and provide the results?
George Familet,
Abstain.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
I have to abstain.
Soshi Leon,
Abstain.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Abstain.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Abstain.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
Yin Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. I'm moving on to agenda item 13, other business. A, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. And 1, report on meetings of the AICPA attended by a California Board of Accountancy representative. State Board Committee, Ms. Salazar.
Thank you very much, President Corrigan. The first item for 1A is my report on the State Board Committee meeting. So that is one of the AICPA committees, and the most recent meeting was on May 6th. It was held virtually, and there was a range of contents in terms of remote testing. I would share with you to watch your emails. I believe that there will be a new webcast in June that has not yet been announced with additional information. So that will be geared to state boards. And so even if you did attend a prior webcast, this would be updated new information. So you'd be encouraged to look at your emails and attend if you are able. There was discussion about the examination content, sort of an update, not the actual content. And so the coverage of that really, I think, focused on the CPA evolution. And I would share with the committee just the broad timeline. So right now, AICPA is in an exploration phase. for the next couple of months, they're continuing meetings of stakeholders and focus groups to gather information. And then in the fall, it shifts into what is called blueprint development. So for our newer members, the blueprint is actually a document that outlines content, skill levels, and representative tasks. Is it multiple choice? Is it a task-based simulation? And that is all put together in a blueprint. So that development will start in fall of 2021. And the goal is to have an exposure draft for CPA evolution on the new blueprint in 2022. So I'm reminding everyone that this is happening because we're talking about the new exam program for evolution launching in January of 2024. We've got to back everything up so that all of our stakeholders, our students, our educators, and our boards can prepare for any changes that are needed. Specific to educators, AICPA again has a webcast series. There is a resource hub specific for educators. I don't believe we have any educators on our board currently that I'm thinking of, but that's important for our partners and our stakeholders to know. And I wanted to share with the board that the model curriculum, which is not required, it's just really a sample of what curriculum could look like under evolution, is going to be completed this summer and be made available. So in fact, NASBA, AICPA, and the Accounting Association, the American Accounting Association, AAA, are having a launch event that will happen on June 15th and 16th. So that is free, and it is designed to really launch that model curriculum and answer questions. There were operational updates. AICPA nationally is seeing pipeline issues continue. I'm not seeing it as much in the report that we just received in California, but they continue to watch sections and exam content. And there's a lot of uncertainty about what is it the new norm? Is it COVID? And so, you know, I think that will continue to be an area that's watched. That really concludes my state board committee presentation. And I will move forward and then ask for questions if that is okay. The next item is the NASBA report.
Ms. Salazar, I'm sorry.
Yes.
We do have to at each point ask for public comment. First, I want to ask board members. I don't see any other hands. I don't see any hands for comments from board members, but we do need to open for public comment, so we'll do that. Thank you. Moderator, please.
The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on that Q&A icon and submit. I would like to make a comment to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Please, thank you. Now on to 13B, National Association of State Boards of Accountancy report by our Pacific Regional Director, Ms. Salazar. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, President Corrigan, and I appreciate you reminding me on the point of order. The last board meeting of NASBA was on April 23rd. A lot of the content was similar in topic to what I just shared with you for the AICPA State Board Committee, so I will not repeat it. There was a lot of just information and updates. There was a lot of operational discussions that do happen, but what I would remind this board of is that NASBA is sending our board members recap emails, and the most recent one was on April 30th, so check your emails. It has information on curriculum analysis, reports, and then also NASBA has put out their call for leadership. So they are looking for volunteers and nominations for board positions as well as regional director positions. So I would remind everyone here that I am serving my final term as your Pacific Region Director, and that is open for nomination. So I'd encourage folks on our board who have an interest in serving to nominate themselves. And I'm happy to answer questions, but I would love to see continued involvement from our board members representing the state of California, because we are one of the largest groups of licensees in the US. So I think that's really important. So with that, that concludes my report on the NASBA Pacific Regional Director. And I will turn it over for questions and or public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salazar. And Ms. Tu, I see your hand. Do you have a question or comment for Ms. Salazar?
Yes. First of all, I want to thank Ms. Salazar for being on this board and all the time and effort that goes with it. And then secondly, I wanted to encourage our board members, especially with some of you have a lot of experiences, to make sure that we do have representation from California on this important board. So with that said, I encourage you all to at least 2, not just 1.
Thank you, Ms. Tu. Ms. Melina Lopez.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Ms. Salazar. I always appreciate all of your input and you representing us on with NASBA. My question is it necessary for representatives to be CPAs?
No, the criteria for a regional director is that you be a sitting board member within 6 months of your, I believe, election. So our board members that are currently seated today are eligible because the nomination is within 6 months of the annual meeting, which is when the consideration and the slate is open for vote. So so yes, remember our annual event will have a voting representative from this board there to represent us.
Thank you. And if there are no other questions or comments, let's just open this part of the agenda to the public. Moderator, please.
The Q&A now is open. Members of the public, click on that Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. The next one, 13B2, report on activities of meetings of the National Association of State Boards of Accountancy attended by California Board of Accountancy member or staff. Under A, Continuing Professional Education Committee. I have no report. I haven't had a meeting since our last meeting. B, Relations with Member Boards Committee. Ms. Salazar.
Thank you very much. The Relation with Member Boards Committee, for everyone listening in and on our board, is actually all of the regional directors across the US. And so our meeting was on April 22nd, and that the report out of that is that we review the focus questions that come from state boards like California. So I say thank you very much for responding and submitting to those. We use that information to shape the programs that are coming up over the summer. So I would like to share with you that we did planning for a new NASBA board member or new NASBA member orientation, and that is coming up on June 8th and is open to all new board members. So I would like to say thank you. I did see that we already have 2 members from the State Board of California registered to participate, and I'm very excited about that. But if you are a newer member and have not yet had a NASBA orientation, that is an event really for you. So I encourage you to attend, and I know NASBA does as well. There is also a lot of time spent planning the regional meeting. So just a reminder that that event is going to be virtual. There will be 1 regional meeting, and it will be June 22nd to the 23rd of this year. So that information is available online, and I'd encourage as many attendees as are able to attend to please do so. And I would just throw the caveat out, as always, please just coordinate with CBA staff so they're aware of any registrations for any back-end approvals that might be needed internally, just tracking as well so they know who is attending. So I would would remind everybody to be communicative with our board, but we hope to see everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salazar. Members, any questions or discussion items for Ms. Salazar on this agenda item? Seeing no hands, moderator, would you please open for public comment? Thank you.
Q&A is now open. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click the Q&A, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 13B2C, Strategic Planning Task Force. Ms. Bowers, our Executive Officer.
Thank you, Madam President. We held our 4th Strategic Planning Task Force meeting earlier this week, and we are just putting the final touches on the new plan, and that will be presented to the NASBA Board of Directors in July of this year. Next, the task force will be charged with identifying key challenges facing the accounting profession, and then developing plans on what actions NASBA will take to address those challenges. I believe there are a total of 18 members on the task force, including NASBA President and CEO Ken Bishop and Executive Vice President Colleen Conrad. So it was an honor when they reached out to me and asked me to serve on this task force. And the fact that the meetings are all being held virtually is really great, because that enabled me to actually accept the assignment. This concludes my report, and I'll turn it back over to President Corrigan, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers, and congratulations on that appointment. Members, any questions or comments for Ms. Bowers on this agenda item? I see no raised hands. Moderator, would you please open it to the public?
The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, you can click that Q&A icon, send "I would like to make a comment" to all panelists. No comment has been received. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please do. Thank you. And moving on to agenda item 13B2D, report of the April 12th through 14th, 2021 annual conference for executive directors and board staff, and the annual conference for Board of Accountancy Legal Counsel. I have Ms. Bowers, our executive officer, and Mr. Franzella, our Chief Enforcement Division. Please proceed.
Thank you. This is an annual conference that's held, and it's a joint conference between the executive directors from each state, legal counsel, and then enforcement staff. And I'd like to thank Ms. Salazar for her very thorough report of the national activities. She actually marked off all of the topics I was going to highlight from the ED conference, and she did it quite well. So at this point, I will defer to Mr. Franzella for any report on the legal conference side.
Good morning, members. From the legal conference side, we also participated in much of the similar discussion topics as the executive directors, but the one thing I wanted to note was that during the legal counsel part, we generally do a roll call where various either legal counsels or enforcement staff members provide some updates and information related to each state. During that discussion with California, I was able to provide information on the KPMG disciplinary action that the board took earlier or late last year, and a remark about the idea of KPMG being required to now offer 4 hours of ethics CE, and that was well received by those individuals in there as a unique and creative way to address that particular professional misconduct that was that the board took action on. So it was well received, and with that, I'll turn it back over to President Corrigan and do my best to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members who have questions for either Ms. Bowers or Mr. Franzella regarding their presentation. Ms. Salazar, I see your hand.
Thank you very much. I more have a comment, and sorry for stealing some of the thunder. I am somewhat sensitive to the perception, so I just want to throw in a clarifying comment that we don't need more than one member attending events. So I would just again say, even though the content it may be similar when it's covered at an executive director or legal or a board level. The framework and the viewpoint that we bring to it's really important to have multiple people representing the board to be there, because I know an executive director's viewpoint is very different, and the conversations and the information is necessary for a lot of procedural changes to be addressed. So I just want to make sure that there isn't the impression that there is quote unquote duplication. So again, I just want to say thank you for everyone's commitment at participating in these events. And it actually is very helpful to have multiple people there. And so I thank especially Patty and our staff for all that they're able to do with squeezing these things into their already busy schedule. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the members? I see no hands. Moderator, would you please open for public comment?
The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, you can click the Q&A icon, type "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please do. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 14, report on our committees. A, the Legislative Committee, and we'll get this started and see how far we can get until we break for lunch at about 12:30. So, Ms. Leon.
Thank you, President Corrigan. Okay, so jumping right in onto the Legislative Committee report meeting, which was held yesterday, May 13th. Starting with agenda item 14A2, the California Board of Accountancy 2021 Legislative Tracking Chart. Staff provided an overview of the legislative track chart, which contained the positions taken by the CBA at the March 2021 CBA meeting. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the president for any comments.
Thank you, Ms. Leon. Members, any comments regarding the legislative tracking chart? Seeing no hands, moderator, would you ask for public comment?
Members of the public, the Q&A is now open. You can participate by clicking the button Q&A and submitting "I would like to make a comment." No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please do. Ms. Leon, please proceed then with 14A3.
Thank you. So 14A3, update, discussion, and possible action on legislation which the Board of Accountancy has already taken a position, starting with 14A3A, Assembly Bill 29, State Bodies Meetings. Staff reported that AB 29 would require that any public meeting notice issued pursuant to the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act must also include all writings or materials in connection with the matter subject to discussion or consideration at that meeting. The bill has not been amended since the last CBA meeting. The Legislative Committee did not take action on this item. The CBA maintains a watch position. Turning it over to you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Leon. Thank you. Any comments from the members? I see no raised hands. Moderator, please open for public comment.
The Q&A is now open. You can click on the Q&A icon and type "I would like to make a comment" and send it to all panelists. No requests were submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please. Thank you. Ms. Leon, agenda item 14A3B.
That's correct. Assembly Bill 107, licensure, veterans and military spouses. Staff stated that AB 107 would require a board within the DCA to, after appropriate investigation, issue a temporary license to practice a profession to a military-related applicant who meets the specified criteria. There were amendments to this bill. However, the provisions of the bill will not apply to a board, including the CBA, that has a process under which these individuals are able to receive expedited temporary authorization to practice while meeting state-specific requirements for a period of at least 1 year. As such, the Legislative Committee did not take action on this item. The CBA maintains its support position. At this time, I'll turn it over to the President for comments.
Thank you. Members, any questions or comments regarding Assembly Bill 107? I see no raised hands. Moderator, please open for public comment.
The Q&A is now open. If you would like to participate, click that QA icon and then I would like to make a comment to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Leon, please proceed with 14A3C, Assembly Bill 225.
That's correct. That's Assembly Bill 225, Department of Consumer Affairs, Boards, Veterans, Military Spouses, and Licenses. Staff stated that AB 225 would require some boards within the Department of Consumer Affairs to issue a temporary license to an applicant who meets specified requirements. The bill was amended since the March board meeting and no longer applies to the CBA. The Legislative Committee recommends the CBA discontinue following this bill. This is a fully formed motion and does not require a second. I will turn it back to President Corrigan for discussion and a vote.
Thank you. Members, is there any discussion regarding this motion? It consists of a first and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no hands, moderator, please open for public comment.
The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, you can participate by clicking the Q&A icon and typing I would like to make a comment and sending it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote and provide the result?
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
Yin Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Ms. Leon, continuing with 14A3D.
That's right. Thank you. That's Assembly Bill 298, Accountancy, California Board of Accountancy. Staff reported that AB 298 is the CBA-sponsored bill, which allows applicants to sit for the CPA exam prior to completion of educational requirements, update ethics education requirements, authorize the CBA secretary, treasurer, or another CBA member as specified to preside over CBA meetings, and clarify existing provisions of the Accountancy Act related to the privacy of applicant and licensee email addresses. The bill was amended to include the CBA approved language from the March meeting. The Legislative Committee did not take action on this item. The CBA maintains its sponsor position. At this point, I'll turn it over to our president.
Thank you. Members, any questions or comments regarding this agenda item? I see no hands. Moderator, please open for public comment.
The Q&A is now open. If you would like to participate, click that Q&A icon and type I would like to make a comment and send it to all panelists. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Leon, proceeding with agenda item 14A3E, Assembly Bill 646.
That's correct. Department of Consumer Affairs boards expunge convictions. So on this item, staff stated that AB 646 would require a licensing board under DCA, including the CBA, to update information on its website regarding licensees who have their licenses revoked due to criminal convictions that are subsequently expunged as specified. This bill has not been amended since the March CBA meeting. A question was raised regarding the process to verify a licensee, and it was suggested greater emphasis be placed on the license lookup feature in the CBA's outreach efforts. The Legislative Committee did not take action on this item. The CBA maintains its watch position. Turning it over to Madam President.
Members, any questions or comments regarding this agenda item? I see no hands. Moderator, please open for public comment.
The Q&A is now open. Members of the public, you can click that Q&A icon and send "I would like to make a comment" to all panelists. No requests were submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. Ms. Leon, on to agenda item 14.3A3F, Assembly Bill 1026.
Yes, business licenses, veterans. Staff reported that AB 1026 would require the Department of Consumer Affairs and any board within DCA to grant a 50% fee reduction for an initial license to an applicant who provides satisfactory evidence that they have served as an active duty member of the U.S. Armed Forces or the California National Guard and was honorably discharged. This bill has not been amended since the last CBA meeting. The Legislative Committee did not take action on this item. The CBA maintains its support position. Turning it back to you, President Corrigan.
Thank you, Ms. Leon. Members, any questions or comments regarding this Assembly Bill? I see no hands. Moderator, please open for public comment.
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. If you would like to participate, click on that Q&A icon and submit "I would like to make a comment" to all panelists. No requests were submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. Ms. Leon, agenda item 14A3G, Assembly Bill 1386.
Yes, license fees, military partners, and spouses. So staff reported that AB 1386 would prohibit a board within the Department of Consumer Affairs from charging an initial application fee or an initial license issuance fee to an applicant who meets the existing expedited licensing requirements for spouses, domestic partners, or other legal partners of members of the U.S. Armed Forces with an assigned duty station in California. The initial examination fee shall only be waived if the examination is administered by the board. Since the last CBA meeting, the bill was amended to also waive an initial examination fee if the examination is administered by the board. The Legislative Committee did not take action on this item. The CBA maintains its support position. Turning it back over to the President.
Thank you. Members, any questions or comments regarding this item, Assembly Bill 1386? I see no hands. Moderator, please open for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the panel, I have opened the Q&A. If you would like to request public comment, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen. For your reference, being displayed on the screen are instructions to make that request. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Leon, proceeding with agenda item 14A3H, Senate Bill 772.
Correct. Professions and vocations, citations, minor violations. Staff stated that SB 772 would prohibit any board, bureau, or commission within DCA, including the CBA, from assessing an administrative fine for a violation of the applicable Licensing Act or any adopted regulation if the violation is a minor violation as specified. Staff reported that this is now a 2-year bill. The Legislative Committee did not take action on this item. The CBA maintains its watch position. Turning it over to you, President.
Thank you. Members, any questions or comments regarding this agenda item? I see no hands. Moderator, please open for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the panel, I have opened the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen. I will now pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Leon, please proceed with agenda item 14A4 and then item A.
Definitely. And this is review and possible consideration of positions on legislation that California Board of Accountancy is monitoring. So on item A, Assembly Bill 885, the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act on teleconferencing, staff reported AB 885 would revise the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act to encourage greater accessibility for both the public and members of a state body when state bodies elect to use teleconferencing technology, like right now. The bill would define teleconferencing as participation in a meeting both audibly and visually. Under provisions of the bill, members of a state body participating remotely would count towards a quorum and would only require public disclosure of the designated primary physical meeting location from which the public may participate. Comments were made regarding the positive impacts this bill could have on local governments and public participation. Staff stated this is a 2-year bill. However, the author welcomes any possible support on the measure. The Legislative Committee recommends that the CBA take a support position on Assembly Bill 885. This is a fully formed motion and does not require a second. I will turn it back to President Corrigan for discussion and a vote.
Thank you. Members, we have a fully formed motion and a second. Do I have any discussion on this matter? Ms. Hines?
Yes, I actually spoke on this item in the committee meeting and asked gave staff some recommendations for items to include in a support letter and to convey to the author. I think the pandemic has really illustrated how helpful having appropriate teleconferencing platforms and systems can be to ensuring that that there is greater accessibility and diversity of members that are able to participate in boards and commissions and also on committees, because it's such a an investment of time and resources to be able to participate. And one of my colleagues, Ms. Salazar, also commented that this advancement in the use of teleconferencing technology has also made it much easier for the public to be able to access, to watch and be participating in these types of meetings. It's a very different experience to watch this meeting just viewed from a camera that's set up in the corner of a room, rather than sort of seeing the real engagement and participation of the members and then being able to participate and comment and be heard. So I think this is a really important advancement. I hope that the author is able to move this through to passage, because although we are virtual through the end of the year already, when we start coming back, I think it will be helpful to have guidance, around how we can, ensure that this types of technology is used to better our ability to serve as members and also to provide services to the public. So.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Anything else from the members before we open for public and then go to a vote? Nothing further. Moderator, please open for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the panel, I am opening the Q&A panel. If you would like to request public comment for your reference, being displayed are instructions on the screen. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Reed, please call for the vote and provide the results.
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Ruth Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
Yin Tu,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Ms. Leon, continuing with agenda item 14-4B, Assembly Bill 1316.
Yes, on school accountability, financial and performance audits, charter schools and contracts. So staff reported that AB 1316 would establish new requirements for non-classroom based charter schools in the areas of auditing and accounting standards, the funding determination process, adding requirements to the contracting process, independently study program requirements, required teacher to pupil ratios, limiting authorization of non-classroom based charters by small districts, and adding specificity to the authorizer oversight process as specified. Staff provided an overview of the bill's provisions that apply to the CBA, which primarily relate to adopting regulations by January 1st, 2023 for both continuing education and peer review requirements. The proposal for continuing education would require CPAs who are engaged in financial and compliance audits of local education agencies to complete 12 of the existing 80 CE hours required for active status license renewal in the areas of accounting, auditing, or related subjects pertaining to local educational agencies. For peer review, the proposal will require a peer review prior to an audit firm performing audits of local educational agencies. The regulations must address specific minimum requirements for the peer review program. The CE and peer review provisions shall apply whether the local educational agency is a government agency or a nonprofit organization. Staff provided an overview of questions that may provide clarity and insights regarding many of the proposed provisions. It was further reported that staff have provided the analysis to the author's office and been in communication with the organization who assisted in the technical components of the bill. Questions were raised regarding staff's thoughts on a position and whether there would be time to provide input and comments in the process if no position was taken at the meeting. Staff informed the committee that there is no recommended position and that there's likely to be time to provide input should the bill pass out of the assembly. The legislative committee recommends that the CBA take a watch position on AB 1316 and work with the author's office and other stakeholders regarding the questions and concerns identified in the analysis. This is a fully formed motion and does not require a second. I will turn it back to President Corrigan for a discussion and a vote.
Thank you, Ms. Leon. Members, before we go for public comment and take the vote, any other discussion regarding this item? Mr. Jacobson.
Question. Are the things that are of concern, and they all relate to the CBA, I assume, and are they educationally related, like we already have certain things that would cover something, and thus they should be considered the equivalent of something else? Is that the type of thing that staff would be working on?
To direct that question to Ms. Pierce, please.
Thank you. It's really several items, actually. There's clarifications regarding, terminology in the bill with regards to the use of auditor instead of licensee, provisions relating to the peer review program, that we are, have been in communications with Cal CPA on, the continuing education, getting clarification regarding whether or not that should be, included in the governmental accounting requirement, whether or not this whole requirement potentially would be better monitored by the state controller's office. So it's really just a mix of several different items that staff have identified that we would be discussing with the author's office and stakeholders.
Thank you. Ms. Melina Lopez?
Thank you. I was just curious whether this bill would cover parent-teacher associations. I know that PTAs do have a role. One of the officer roles is called auditor, and I was just curious if this bill would cover that.
I don't believe it does. It's not specified in the bill, so I'm going to say no.
Thank you. Seeing that there are no further questions or comments from members, moderator, please open for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the panel, I have opened the Q&A. If you would like to request public comment, for your reference, being displayed on the screen are instructions to make that request. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote and provide the result?
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 14-4C, Senate Bill 607. Ms. Leon?
Yes, so Senate Bill 607, Professions and Vocations. I'm actually going to turn it over to Ms. Pierce because there's been a development since yesterday's meeting.
Thank you. Ms. Pierce?
Thank you. During the LC meeting, staff reported that Senate Bill 607 contained several provisions impacting various boards within the Department of Consumer Affairs. However, the one relevant to us would waive all fees charged by a board associated with the application and initial license for a military-related applicant. During the discussion yesterday, the LC voted to recommend that the CBA take a support position on the bill. However, we were made aware of amendments to the bill, and I'd like to provide an overview for CBA discussion and a possible position. Many of these amendments are actually very similar to the provisions contained in AB 885, which Ms. Carrie Ann Farrell Hines and Ms. Katrina Salazar identified some very positive impacts regarding that. So I think that this will be a positive requirement for the board. So let me just provide a quick overview. The bill amendments propose that under the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, a state body organized within the Department of Consumer Affairs can hold an open or closed meeting by teleconference if specified requirements are met. The bill would specify that any of the members of the state body may participate in a teleconference meeting from one or more remote locations. Minutes of the meeting shall include which member or members of the state body participated from that remote location. The meeting notice and agenda is not required to disclose a member's remote location. It would not require the state body to post the agenda at the remote location, and it would not require the state body to designate a physical meeting location where members of the public may physically attend the meeting and participate. All actions during a meeting by teleconference shall be by roll call vote, and it has to provide a means by which the public may remotely hear audio of the meeting and remotely observe the meeting if applicable. and remotely participate in the meeting. The applicable teleconference phone number or internet website or other information indicating how the public can access the meeting remotely shall be included in the meeting notice. Upon discovering that a means of remote access required has failed during a meeting, the state body would end or adjourn the meeting, and then the bill specifies requirements for adjournment and reconvening the meeting. So many of these elements, since it was just amended, I haven't done a line-by-line comparison to AB 885, but it does contain a significant amount of the amendments that were, or the proposal that was in AB 885. Staff are recommending the CBA adopt a support position on SB 607, and at this time, I will turn it back to the president for a possible motion.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce. Members, any questions or comments? And I'm also ready to receive a motion on this item. Mr. Jacobson.
I move that we adopt a support position.
Thank you. Ms. Hines, you have a second?
Yes, a second.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members, before we open for public comment and then resume for the vote? Seeing no hands, moderator, please open for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the panel, I have opened the Q&A. For your reference, being displayed on the screen are instructions to make that request. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we've received no requests. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Reed, please call for the vote and provide the results.
George Familette,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Xochitl Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Ms. Leon, continuing then with agenda item 14.5.
Thank you. And that's review and possible of positions on legislation the California Board of Accountancy is monitoring. Staff reported that the bills in this agenda item are being monitored by staff, and if any are amended in any way that directly impacts the CBA, an analysis will be prepared and presented at a future meeting. That concludes my updates, and I'll pass it over to you, President Corrigan.
Thank you, Ms. Leon. Members, any questions or comments regarding agenda item 14.5, and that would be A through R? I see no hands. Moderator, would you please open for public comment?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the panel, I have opened for Q&A. If you would like to request a public comment, please follow the instructions currently being displayed on your screen. All comments will be addressed in the order they are received. I will now pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, I have not received any requests. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do. And we are moving now to agenda item 14B, our Committee on Professional Conduct, Ms. Molina Lopez.
Yes, thank you very much. The Committee on Professional Conduct, we met yesterday morning and we discussed agenda item 14B2. This is a discussion and possible action regarding the AICPA official review, new interpretation, and related revision, staff augmentation arrangements adopted February 9th, 2021. Staff reported that the purpose of this agenda item is to provide the CBA with an update with respect to the AICPA's new interpretation and revision related to staff augmentation agreements. Staff stated this topic was previously discussed by the CBA in July 2019 and in November 2020. The CBA issued a comment letter to AICPA regarding the exposure draft and indicated that it could not support the proposal and would monitor a revised proposal should it be issued. Staff reported that this past February, the AICPA issued the new interpretation and related revisions to the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct, incorporating the permissibility of staff augmentation arrangements. Staff highlighted that the impact to California as it pertains to continued regulation, now that the AICPA adopted the proposed changes, would be that the new interpretation to independence related to staff augmentation would be allowed. As previously noted, during staff's evaluations, the safeguards remain highly subjective and could prove difficult to enforce. Staff stated that given the CBA's prior position of not supporting the proposal, it will work with legal counsel to begin exploring changes to the statutes, regulations, or both, which staff will bring back to the CBA for consideration at a future meeting. The CPC did not take action on this item. President Corrigan, I pass this over to you for any comments.
Thank you, Ms. Molina Lopez. Members, are there any questions or comments regarding this part of the agenda and Ms. Molina Lopez's report? Ms. Salazar.
Thank you, President Corrigan. I guess my one comment is that I did see in the materials that staff would look at taking action, but I guess the point I would like to make is that this has been adopted by the AICPA, but it still falls within, I think, the purview of each state to decide if they want to carve it out and not allow it. So it is a pretty big deal to do a carve out and to be different than what most other states are doing and what is sort of nationally accepted. But I did just want to point out that if this, if these guardrails are not strong enough, or there is concern with this board within California about the exceptions to independence and sort of the chipping away at the cornerstone of the profession, this is the place to have that discussion. So that is really my comment, and that this revision was the result of a lot of negotiation to improve things. And so ultimately the question is whether or not it's good enough for this board. So I would just pass that along, no action needed, but just a perspective for our board members.
Thank you, Ms. Salazar. Anything else from other members? Moderator, please open for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the panel, I have opened the Q&A. If you would like to make a public comment, please follow the instructions currently being displayed on your screen by clicking the question mark within the square. All requests will be addressed in the order they are received. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do. Ms. Molina Lopez, continuing with agenda item 14B2.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe it's B3, and I'll continue with B3.
Apologize, you are correct. Thank you.
This was discussion and possible action regarding the fees associated with online payments. Staff reported that since online credit card payments were implemented in 2018 for license renewal, the CBA has been paying the associated transaction fee of 2% per transaction amount. Staff stated that as of April 2021, the CBA has expanded the acceptance of credit cards to include online application and initial license fees as part of its online application system. The potential fees from these transactions could range from $17,000 to $35,000 and are in addition to the fees associated with license renewal. The CBA received a budget augmentation for $217,000 in fiscal year 2019-2020 to address the costs associated with credit card acceptance. The budget augmentation amount is presently sufficient to address the current license renewal usage and costs associated with the online CPA application. Staff stated that the CBA is presently undergoing a fee analysis. Results of the fee analysis are anticipated to be provided in the fall 2021, and the outcome and subsequent regulatory and/or statutory fee changes could impact the CBA's costs associated with each credit card transaction amount. Staff indicated that the CBA could discuss this topic in the future, following the fee analysis and any subsequent fee changes. A question was raised regarding trends with other boards regarding how the fee is assessed. It was indicated that boards are both covering the fee and passing the associated fee to the user. A question was also raised regarding whether there was an option to invest the funds received earlier with the control agency who oversees those activities. The CPA did not take action on this item, and staff will provide additional information following the outcome of the fee analysis. President Corrigan, I pass this over to you for any comments.
Thank you, Ms. Molina Lopez. Members, are there any questions or comments regarding this item? Mr. Jacobson.
I suggest that as part of the fee analysis, staff speak with the controller or her designee and see if there is a way to use the money that you get early from the use of a credit card to offset the fees rather than charge it to the licensees. Thank you.
Ms. Pierce, do you have a comment in that regard?
I guess my only response is that we can definitely get a better understanding of the process with regards to the funds that are collected. Because I think what you were indicating yesterday was a quicker investment, making some money off our money, so to speak. And so I think what staff, if it's agreeable with you, Mr. Jacobson, is to maybe get a better understanding of the process on how that works with regards to the collection of the funds. First, our fee analysis is already underway. The contract has been set. That particular component isn't included in the contract. So it may be something where we can gather some information first and report it back. And then if we need to take that additional step to see if, based on the investment of the funds, it could offset the transaction amount, then the board could discuss it at that point if that's agreeable with Mr. Jacobson and the board.
Thank you. Certainly agreeable to me.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce. Any other comments from members on this item before I open for public comment? Seeing no hands, moderator, please open for public comment.
At the direction of the panel, I have opened for Q&A. If you would like to request public comment for your reference, being displayed on the screen are instructions to do so. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. And moving on to agenda item 14C, Enforcement Program Oversight Committee, our chair, Carrie Ann Farrell-Hines.
Thank you, President Corrigan. On the EPOC report, the staff reported that this is item number 14C2, that the purpose of this item is to provide the California Board of Accountancy with the opportunity to discuss possible modifications to the retired status licensure approval denial process, specifically related to individuals who have a permanent restricted practice order stemming from prior disciplinary action imposed by the CBA. Staff reported that recently the CBA considered a petition request for a reduction of penalty associated with a licensee who had been on probation but was tolling as the licensee lived out of state. The disciplinary order also included a permanent restricted practice order. The licensee was requesting to have the petition granted to terminate probation and have the license placed in a retired status. A question was raised regarding the ability to grant the individual's request based on language included in the enabling statute. In consultation with legal counsel, staff informed the committee that as the statute is presently written, the CBA would need to deny an application for retired status if the licensee has a permanent restricted practice order, as the order is still considered an outstanding order of the CBA. The CBA has over 100 licensees that have a permanent restricted practice order, and that number is increasing. While the permanent restricted practice order is still a form of discipline, it seems reasonable that should licensees ever seek to retire the license, the CBA should be able to approve such an application. Staff further noted that should these same licensees seek to restore the license to the active status, any such prior permanent restricted practice order be reinstated. Additionally, the removal of the permanent restricted practice orders should require licensees to appear before the CBA through the petition process. The EPOC recommends that the CBA direct staff to explore the necessary changes to the retired status license approval denial process and work with legal counsel on possible steps to make modifications to Business and Professions Code Section 5070.1 via statute, regulation, or both, and present these to the CBA at a future meeting. Also, this is a fully formed motion and does not require a second. I will turn it back to President Corrigan for discussion and further action.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Members, any discussion of this item before we go for public comment and then come back to the vote? Any discussion at this point? Seeing no hands, moderator, please open for public comment.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the panel, I have opened for public comment. For your reference, being displayed on the screen are instructions on how to request comment. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please do. Thank you. Ms. Reed, would you call for the vote and provide the result?
George Familet,
Yes.
Carrie Ann Farrell Hines,
Yes.
Dan Jacobson,
Yes.
Soshi Leon,
Yes.
Luz Molina Lopez,
Yes.
Dee Dee Owens,
Yes.
Ariel Pay,
Yes.
Katrina Salazar,
Yes.
Michael Savoy,
Yes.
and Nancy Corrigan.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 15, closing business. A, agenda items to be considered for future California Board of Accountancy meetings. Members, do I have any comments on this section? Seeing no hands, moderator. Oh, Ms. Molina Lopez.
Yes, thank you. I did want to request that we add a bill. I know that we have a lot of bills that we are monitoring, and I think our staff and of course the legislative committee and Madam Chair Leon. But there is a bill that I didn't see on there that I would like to bring forward so that we give it some attention, and that is State Bill 207. Oh goodness, let me make sure I have the number correct. And it is a state bill by Senator Limon. I'm sorry, let me get to my notes. This is in fact, yes, Senate Bill 702. And this is a bill that would require the governor to establish a group that would provide a report on boards and committees. And we can discuss it at some later time if we can add that please to the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. That will certainly be considered. Anything further from the members? Moderator, please open to the public for comments on this agenda item.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the panel, I have opened the Q&A. If you would like to request public comment, please click on the question mark within the square located in the lower right-hand portion of your screen and type, "I would like to make comment." All comments will be addressed in the order they are received. I will pause momentarily to allow individuals time to access this feature. At this time, we have not received any requests for public comment. Would you like me to close this feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. And the final item on my agenda is adjournment. So I'm adjourning this meeting. I want to thank you all for being here, for your participation, your excellent input. Look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Everyone. Thanks, staff.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
This is the moderator, and at the adjournment of this meeting, I will be closing the meeting. Thank you.